Okay, this is gonna be a weird one. It's been a while since I've done a gear review, but this is the one that I've been, I guess, a little hung up on because I'm not really sure how I want to do this. So this is the Taylor T5Z, and this is a hybrid guitar, kind of in the. It's like a competitor to the Fender Acoustasonic. It is meant to be a guitar which can, with minimal effort, kind of switch from filling an acoustic guitar roll to an electric guitar roll under the same fingers, and like I said, with kind of minimal switching. You shouldn't need to like switch to an amp or through a pedal board or something. And that is something that the Acoustasonic, as I've covered in prior videos, does very well for your typical meat and potatoes, run-of-the-mill, average Joe singer-songwriter. If you like the idea that you can have this one guitar and then it sounds great through the board as basically a really nice like dreadnought sound, and then you just flick the pickup selector and you don't need to put it through an amp or pedal board or anything, and it sounds like a nice clean or kind of overdriven telly. It does that. It does a great job of that, and I am a fan of the Acoustasonic. It has grown on me the longer I've had it. I take it with me to almost every gig, at least as my backup guitar, because it's really reliable, really versatile, and I trust it that I can absolutely get through a gig on it. This one, I haven't warmed to. To be fair, I give it kind of trial by fire. Like, it was kind of sink or swim. I just took it to a gig, expected I was going to plug it in, and that somehow I'd be happy with what came out, and I'd get to know it a little bit. That I'd keep it simple, but that I certainly something on here. This is intended to be used as an acoustic guitar surrogate. So I'll use the acoustic setting, and I was not happy with what was coming out. It wasn't terrible, wasn't like unusable, but certainly wasn't inspiring and didn't really strike me as very acoustic-ish. So what I want to do in this review right now is, first I want to tell you my first impressions real quick about it, and then I want to put them to the test, because to be fair, the method that I got to know this guitar, like I said, it's kind of trial by fire, and that did not afford me the opportunity to like step back, relax, take my time, and give this a fighting chance to show me what it's really made of, what it's really good at, and to figure out what I need to do to let this guitar be its best self for me. So here we go. Without further ado, this is it has a 5-way selector, and the fifth position, rather, the closest up here, is going to be some sort of body pickup plus this hidden humbucker that's under the neck here, right about here. This is well, I will say something before I play it. So let me give you some positives. Why I care about doing this, instead of just writing it off, is I really want this guitar to be awesome because it feels awesome. This is a very, very comfortable guitar. Arguably the most comfortable guitar I own. The weight is great. This is a fully hollow body. It looks beautiful. The neck is really comfortable. This just plays, if you don't have it plugged in, this plays really comfortably. And so I'd really like it to be useful. But this is what it sounds like on the position that is intended to be the acoustic guitar setting. Okay, so that is, now by way of comparison, by way of contrast, let me show you what the Acoustasonic would sound like doing that same thing. So I will say this. having just done it back to back, the difference is not as stark as I thought it was going to be. The difference is not as stark as I've internalized. And so I have to kind of second guess myself. Was I unfair to this in the gigging situation? Have I become a little biased to expect it's not perfect, it's not great? Let's explore a little further. Back on the T5Z. Now I'm intrigued. That wasn't as big a difference, so maybe I need to think a little more carefully about shaping this. So let's see. That's a little too zingy. That's with the treble all the way up. Let's bring that about halfway, and that's with the bass cut just a little bit. Let's see, there's a little quick. So this is with the EQ flat. And this is with a little more treble. And a little less bass. So I don't love that I would need to make an adjustment like that, but it does tell me, it informs me. That's kind of what I'm missing. I'm missing a little bit of the zing, sort of the high-end articulation that an acoustic would have that I kind of expect to hear. And that is, certainly these low strings are a little muted, or a little, Okay, so now let's look at some of these other pickups. This would be just the neck humbucker. And that's really, right there, remember, the acoustic sound is that neck humbucker plus a body pickup. I almost wish that I could just get that body pickup, because now if I take the body pickup out, in essence, and just do the neck humbucker, now I hear what I'm not really liking. That's it's kind of a nothing sound. So let's compare this just momentarily. One more comparison. Let me go grab a just decent hollow body, and I'm gonna just play the neck pickup there as a contrast to this. I have no idea how this is going to be. I don't expect it to be great. So again, this is just, this is a semi-hollow that I happen to own, that I like and I've gigged with and been happy with, and that has kind of a warm neck pickup, which warmth, there's a fine line in my view between warmth and mud. But this is kind of the flip side of the coin. So if something's a little too muddy, too dark, too disarticulate, then it seems muddy. If it's just articulate enough and just MIDI enough, then it feels warm, and that's a quality that I like in certain hollow bodies, and this being one of them. So I'm gonna use this one as an example of something that might be a guitar I know to be good at the thing that maybe that neck pickup is getting towards. So here we go. So there certainly is some similarity, although this is certainly driving it a lot harder than the rest there. Okay, let me show you the bridge pickup here, and then let's test it out on the T5Z. Okay, so a lot more bite. Again, this is not the optimal rig to run this through, but like, I'm a little happier with that. Right. So let's go back to the T5Z and see what starts happening when we have the bridge pickup in the mix. Okay, so here's the bridge humbucker, the one that is actually visible by itself. So, comparable, maybe not as hot, certainly not as hot as the semi-hollow, but there's some bite there. And now I've kept it with that. I forgot to change the EQ that I was messing around with, so that represents the bridge with a little treble boost. That may be the trick to the whole thing, is that here if I take the treble boost off and sort of I have a bass cut as well. If I bring that back to baseline, just flat EQ on this, then this is what it's like. Okay, so upon, like bracketing it with some guitars I like, I can see that my disappointment with this guitar was probably out of proportion to what its actual performance is. That the ballpark that this rests in is probably kind of acceptable to the purposes it purports to fulfill. I think that a worthy secondary pursuit here would be see how this thing sounds through an amp. I don't really want to use this as like a hollow body, like a primarily electric guitar. I do want it to be like primarily when I'm taking to an acoustic gig and then kind of having a change of pace option. So to continue down that road, where this can go is the positions on the switch here are, like I said, the body pickup plus a body sensor plus the hidden neck humbucker, which we've already looked at. And this is just flat EQ. Then just the hidden neck humbucker by itself, that's hard. That one is the hardest for me to think of what it can do for me. But that is the one where I found some success by kind of boosting the treble and cutting the bass a little bit. Then it's the bridge pickup by itself. And then it's got the two pickups in parallel. And then in series. which would conceivably be kind of gain staging for going through a pedal into an amp, something, you know, really driving it a little harder. And that does heat it up for sure. So for sure, going through an amp, that probably helps a little bit. So I think what we're going to do right now is I'm going to do a quick little switcheroo. And the last thing I'm going to do is try to run it through an amp. Now for me, that's not really the direction I want to take this guitar. But as far as like understanding what it does well and understanding what it wants to do, I probably should see how that works. So I'm just going to grab just a little Vox practice amp, just a basic kind of decent amp, nothing particularly special, and I'm not going to run it through a rig. I'm just going to kind of run it through an amp, compare it with the hollow body, and see how these play out. Bridge. Okay, so now let's see, under those same sort of, you know, it's just a little practice amp, but like a little bit of affectation, a little, you know, a little bit of trim, some warmth, and if you drive it hard enough, just a little bit of breakup there. So let's see how the Taylor fares in this configuration. Okay, so here's the Taylor on the neck pickup to start. On the bridge pickup. Here's parallel. Finally, here's series, and let's see if it really drives it. Okay, so I actually thought, before plugging this in, I thought, okay, I think I've found where I think I've found the sweet spot, is that yeah, it can kind of be an acoustic going straight through a PA, but that if you really want these humbuckers to shine and do their best, you probably have to put it through an amp. And the reason I chose that little Vox practice amp is that that's one that well, it doesn't have like a phenomenal sound. It's like it kind of exposes guitars that I plug into it, you know, as, well, this is kind of what you're working with. And so, like, when I plug in the Gretsch, it's like, I know I could get that to be better. I know I could get that to be more tuned into, more dialed into what I like and give it some extra qualities. I know that I could, you know, craft that. But at the same time, it's kind of like when you go into a guitar store and you try to find an amp that you kind of know, and you plug in and you're really trying to say, this guitar or that guitar off the wall. Talk to me about like what you're doing, guitar, and don't let me get seduced by, you know, how awesome an amp is, or how awesome some pedal rig is. Like, let me just take something basic, some little tube amp or some little practice amp, and let me just see what this guitar can. Does this guitar start to sound like it has promise? And I gotta say, that was a letdown. So that Now that may not be what this is meant to do, but I'm surprised. I thought when I was hearing the humbuckers go through the PA, my hypothesis was, yeah, when I do the A/B test with this in the Gretsch, I can hear. I'll bet that it wants an amp to drive. I'll bet that it wants an amp to soak this up and to color it a little bit. And I think that's not true. Like, this guitar just plugged in kind of shows me that it's fussy and that it needs more work and it needs something more to be satisfactory. I do kind of suspect that if I were to spend a lot of time kind of dialing it in and go kind of a notch up on the amp, and really, kind of get kind of the perfect vehicle for it, it probably would do okay. But would it do better than any hollow body I pull off the wall? I don't think it would. I think I'd be happier with that Gretsch, which is not even my favorite, but is a good one, a good gig-worthy guitar. So I'm starting to bridge into final thoughts, but let me just let's just go straight to final thoughts. To recap, I was disappointed when I sort of took this out and road tested it at a gig. It really kind of let me down. To be fair, I think that my disappointment was maybe a little bit overblown now that I've had a chance to reconsider here in this more relaxed setting. It's not as far off as I kind of have built it up to be in my mind. So I got to give it some credit. This is an incredibly comfortable guitar. I really want this guitar to sound great because it feels great. It's so comfortable, such a nice weight, so well made, so beautiful. The neck is so comfortable. It's incredibly well made. But I do still ultimately think it falls short. It doesn't quite deliver what I want out of a hybrid guitar. It doesn't really give me that acoustic sound where I would just use this as an acoustic all gig long. I would feel like it came up short, and I would constantly be feeling like I'm doing things. I'm fiddling with the EQ. I'm bringing my strum a little closer to the bridge to get more definition, to make this more... And it still would just be, it's a little bit off. In the room, it's a little bit off. And then I wouldn't have any jobs to do with these other selections. Like, if I were just going through a PA, I wouldn't really want to use any of these other options. I would need something to flavor it along the way. I'd need to run it through a pedal board. I'd need to run it through an amp, which kind of defeats the purpose of what I want out of that hybrid guitar, as opposed to, like, let me just real quick show you, like, with the Acoustasonic, the flip of a switch, I've got a usable telly sound, or there's two usable telly sounds. So if I need that for just a song or two, or a moment, or if I were a looper, or if I were a better lead player, I want to take a solo and just wanted to have that tool like at my immediate disposal. Okay, so to get that access to that, that's just going through the PA. Like, that's very usable. And let's see, this is that's the clean. So the Acoustasonic delivers this extra dimension. The Acoustasonic has, this body pickup that you can engage to do tapping and thumping, and that's a little lacking over on the Taylor. Let's put our money where our mouth is on that. So, I mean, the bottom line for me is that I don't really prefer anything that the Taylor's doing over something that I can get on the Acoustasonic. It's a little closer. That acoustic sound is a little closer than I originally evaluated it to be. So I got to give them credit for that. So here it is on the one and only acoustic setting. That's the body work here. It's not as full. It's not as close to what you want when you're... It's there. You can do it. That's just if I put it on the pickup. So the body sensor's doing some work. It's there. But it's just not quite as nice. It's there. Okay, so bottom line, I can't really recommend this guitar. I can't recommend it over... If it's between this and the Acoustasonic, I'd recommend the Acoustasonic. For the jobs I mentioned, the Acoustasonic delivers better than the Taylor T5Z. The one thing that the Taylor T5Z does better than the Acoustasonic, and it's just by a little bit, it is more comfortable. Like, it is a little bit better crafted. It is a little nicer weight. It is more comfortable. And if this were an awesome sounding hollow body that just happened to have an acoustic setting, I could live with the idea that this is, this feels more comfortable than any of the other hollow bodies I own. But it doesn't even come close to sounding as good as the Gretsch does. Like, it's an also ran as an electric guitar. I think it's one that it's kind of like, it can kind of do in a pinch. It's definitely intended to be acoustic first and electric supplementary, but too much of this is dedicated to being an electric for it to be this poor an electric. All right, so I know that one's long, but hopefully you get a sense of like what I'm struggling with about how to make this guitar fit a good role for me, and I just can't recommend it. And I gave it a good go, and it did improve its standing with me, but I still just can't pick this over anything else in the arsenal, and I can't really recommend it as a guitar over those other tools. So, until next time, take it easy.